you making it a half if you just need, if it's solar, companies love it because they can, estimate a solar project with it. Again, there's so that yeah, there's a lot that is our job. That is the
Interesting.
pivot point of our software.
Can you customize that margin and waste factor? Can the roofing contractor for their company, can they customize that before putting it out?
Yep, 100%. So what we do is we give them three stages as far as the complexity. We do a simple, medium, and complex, and they can put different waste factors for each one of those.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, and that's super interesting with the is I hadn't heard that before. Is that a new thing that you guys are doing with the AI complexity?
So that was my post right about Christmas time when I was about ready to just but yeah, when we did that release, I put in the post, this release is probably bigger than our initial launch
Mm,
because now we have so much data. We're not just throwing wet paper towels against a wall and saying we just wanted your contact information. We don't really care if it's accurate or not. Now we're saying we've dialed this thing in. You can trust our measurements and you can trust the final that quote that you're seeing. You can trust that number that's on there because we have already started adding in some of the other escalators to the price that we were never had access to before. Now we have access to those numbers as well.
yeah. I think another and that makes total sense, and that I mean it sounds like you guys are on top of it from the accuracy standpoint. One thing that we're seeing a lot of, and John is doing this same thing. You guys are you're talking a lot selling, allowing people to just get the price and then buy the roof. But it seems like everyone at the moment is mostly using the Roof Quote Pro tool as a way to pull in leads. And then once you have it in the system, you then still are going to have to create the final quote. You're going to have to order the Eagle View or at least the roofer report and get the final measurements, work out all the numbers, put together that quote. And so some of the pushback that I've personally heard is if I still have to do all of that, now Roof Quote Pro is an added price. Yeah, maybe if it gets me more leads, but it's just purely does it get me more leads, right? That's the main question they're asking themselves because they don't seem to be able to replace that other part of the process. And that seems to be somewhat in contrast to what you guys are saying, where you and the rest of Roof Quote Pro is saying, where you're like, the market is changing. This is how people want to do roofs. How are you guys approaching this? Is it something that you guys are trying to pull those together and marry it long term? I don't know if you could fill us in on that.
Yeah, John, I don't know. Do you want to talk about your experiences first, or do you want me to kind of talk about the pathway here?
Oh yeah, so I'm interested to know the roadmap for Roofle. I am,
Yeah.
but I'll say what in the past it has molded over time. It is generally a lead magnet for us. So our process right now, we use it to kind of touch back on what you're saying about like if there are differences in price. The consumer is also skeptical of this tool. It's actually in our benefit right now. So when you say ballpark price, they're like, I want a ballpark price. Oh, I know this is not going to be accurate. I'm not going to hold you to it. It's the same thing when they're staring right at you and like, what's the ballpark price? It's the same thing, but they just going to do it at home. So we've had a $6,000 change order because things are out of our control. They weren't the measurements necessarily. It was multiple layers of shingles and rotten decking, the two biggest concerns that are protected in Roof Quote Pro and in our contract. That's fine. So anyone that to overcome that objection from a contractor, it doesn't. The customer they wrote a 5-star review. They're happy. They understood that I'm getting a ballpark price. We gave them that exact price. Hey, these are the two ways that we will change the price. It will not change anything else. We documented in Company Cam. You have to do all the processes to get the change order, but you are protected using Roof Quote Pro using that straight process. The way we use it right now, we get a lead, they schedule an inspection. We would love to inspect the roof before we send an estimate. Before the inspector even gets there, because of the way Proline works, Kathleen's already written the estimate in Proline. We have the whole estimate written because we know it's a qualified lead. We do order Eagle View because we want exact measurements for a material order. That's how we do it right now. We used to not, and that's fine. The problem is it's not about the measurements at that point. It's about giving the proposal to the customer that day. That's why we want it. It's not so much like because the way Roof Quote Pro is right now, we don't know all the ridge, the valleys. We want to know every linear foot of everything. And so we know our numbers. So we want to be super accurate with that. That's the way we use it right now. Roof Quote Pro lead comes in, they schedule an inspection through the automation. Once they're pre-qualified, we order Eagle View. We have the proposal ready within 24 hours. And so we want to present that very accurately to the homeowner right now, the same day we inspect. And then if they say, I'm getting 2 more estimates, that's fine. We just send them in ProLine follow up, and they buy the roof from ProLine proposal. That's how our process works.
Yeah, so I appreciate you talking about that, because it's so when I talk about e-commerce in the roofing industry, I talk about us being on a pathway there. And it's one of the things where you can see in the user experience and the UI in Roof Quote Pro is because they actually did a proof of concept before they released this to contractors. Does this work? What do homeowners look for? How do they interact with it? What works and what doesn't? They did all of that for 2 years before they closed that down and restructured the software and then made it available for contractors. Part of that process, though, is Roof Quote Pro isn't the entire tech stack. And so we are the top of funnel lead generation tool in its, that's what we want to be really good at. That's why we partner so well with ProLine, because you are going to need to have certain aspects of this before a homeowner comes on your site, gets a quote, and swipes a credit card or buys the roof. That's e-commerce. I do a very specific definition of e-commerce, which is they are buying the roof online. Right now, if you look at even cars, Tesla is one of the few e-commerce platforms out there, because 85% is what I'm told, still 85% of those transactions for a newer used car still happens at the dealership. And so there is some adoption that still needs to be had by the consumers. They're not entirely 100% ready for e-commerce. Now, they do make their buying decisions online, just like if you wanted a truck or a car right now, the first thing you're going to do is go online and you're going to look at, what are the makes, models, what are the style, what are the warranties. You're going to get all the information, and you're going to see, which have what inventory. You're going to have all the information so that by the time you go to the dealership and actually make the purchase, you already know what you're looking for. You're going to get it. And that's kind of the stage at which we're at, I think, with roofing. There are some people that are being very good at doing the entire process e-commerce, but it's adding things like a visualizer, adding things like that instant communication 24 hours a day. Things like, again, until the technology allows us to get rakes, ridges, valleys, everything in an instant, we need to have time. We need 3 hours to get detailed measurements. It's kind of important part of the process.